All right, ladies and gentlemen, for your lesson today, you're going to be looking at setting as well as an introduction to your writing piece. We all know we're writing historical fiction, so you should have out your historical fiction planning packet. If you don't have it out yet, go ahead and pause this and pull it out. All right, now that you have it out, the part we're going to focus on today is this top part, introduction/setting. And it's asking you what the setting of your story is going to be at the beginning. Your setting may change throughout, but I want you to remember that setting equals time and or place. It can be both or just one. Please go ahead and write that down. Pause while you do that. So to figure out what the setting is at the beginning, you can either start where your story takes place, or you can start somewhere else. It doesn't matter. Mine is Pompeii. That's where it's going to take place. I think I'm actually going to start in Pompeii. So my setting at the beginning of the story is going to be in the village of Pompeii. They're going to start out there. So give yourself a few seconds to figure out where you want yours to start and maybe what time. I think my time is going to be probably about 7 a.m. when people are just starting to get up and around. I think is how I'm going to start. Now, doesn't mean that this has to stay this way. You could certainly end up changing it. But at least get some ideas down. All right, go ahead and pause this while you think about what your setting is going to be at the beginning of your story. Remember, we want a place and a time. All right, now that you've done that, the next part they want you to know is what's your main character going to be doing? Well, you had spent the last day or so thinking about your main character and who they are, so you should have an idea of kind of what they're going to be doing at this time. So they might be just getting up, they might be going to school, they might be an adult who has to go to work. It could be anything. So think about what your main character is going to be doing. I think I'm going to have my main character be a child. So my main character is going to be getting up and eating breakfast. Or preparing breakfast, depending on where I want to take this. So go ahead and pause this so you can figure out what you want your main character to be doing. Pause. All right, now that you've done that, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some introductions, because I want you to actually write your introductory paragraph. Your introduction can go a variety of ways. You can tell exactly what's going on. You can hint around what's going on. You can give clues like writers generally do in their books that they write, or a combination of any of those. So I want you to go ahead and get out your writer's notebook. You're going to be in the writing section of the writer's notebook after the notes you've taken. Go ahead and label the top introduction. Pause while you get your notebook. So this is my notes page. I'm going to flip it. This is a timeline I had started to a fresh page. And I'm going to write introduction. Go ahead and do the same. I'm also going to put the date up here. Whoops, it is not September. Today should be the 11th. Once you have that, I want you to go ahead and look at a bunch of books that I'm going to show you, but then you can actually look at your own choices of books, especially your own historical fiction book.
I'm airdropping you.
All right, we're going to look at the beginning of One Candle. One Candle starts out, maybe, this Hanukkah is like every other one. Our house is filled with food and family and delicious cooking smells. So they started with their setting, didn't they? And describing their setting. Our great Aunt Rose is here. She's Grandma's sister. So we're being introduced to some characters. There's Mom, Dad, we 3 kids, my uncle and his family. When Grandma and Grandpa arrive at our house, Dad gets to hug them first. Grandma brings the potato. We're introduced to something that's going to play a really big part in this story. So that might be what you want to do, is you want to put a little bit of a clue in there and something that's interesting that's going to show up later. When I was little, I thought it was to eat or to grate for the latkes that Mom makes, but it isn't. This totally sets up a, well, what the heck is it for? So this is how you could start. Another way you could start is by looking at dandelions. Let's see how we came to Nebraska territory in the spring. Our oxen, Brownie and Blackie, pulled the wagon, and our cow Moo was tied on behind. So again, telling us where they are, introducing some characters. It's a long way from my grandparents' home in Illinois. A long way. Papa laughed and sang. "Look at it, Emma," he said to Mama. "Miles and miles of free land." "But it's so lonely," Mama said. So we're introduced to some characters and maybe how one particular character is feeling. So you can throw some feelings in there. Now let's go ahead and look at the Babe and I. How did the Babe and I start? For my birthday, I was hoping my parents would give me a bicycle. They only gave me a dime. I was disappointed, but not surprised. It was 1932. Look, we got a setting. In the midst of the Great Depression. Ooh, time. And millions of people were out of work. We were lucky. My father had a job. But we never seemed to have much money. That's kind of setting up what the problem is right there, isn't it? It's kind of showing us what might be coming. Where we lived, in the Bronx, New York, everyone was poor. Really sets up for the whole story, talking about how these people have no money. All right, let's go to I Too Am America. This is a poem, but it starts out very quickly. I too sing America. So immediately in my head I'm thinking, America? Well, what does that mean to be America? How about Gleam and Glow? Let's start at the beginning of this one. When Papa left to join the underground, Marina cried. To be truthful, Mama and I cried too. So immediately we're thrown right into the middle of the story. Papa's leaving? I haven't even met Papa yet. And this character, our narrator, is talking about how he cried, or how, we don't even know if it's a he, about how the character cried, and the sister and the mother. So we're thrown right into the middle. Papa's leaving. And then it starts to show us kind of the age of these kids. I don't want Papa to be underground, Marina sobbed. So she obviously does not understand what it means to be underground. So you could start out with dialogue. Look at, these guys are talking. They're talking to one another. Start with dialogue. Grandfather's journey. She starts out describing grandfather. My grandfather was a young man when he left his home in Japan and went to see the world. Well, that really sets us up for what's coming. Got a little bit of an information there. How about Pepe the lamplighter? A long time ago, when there was no electricity and the street lamps in Little Italy had to be lit by hand, Pepe lived in a tenement on Mulberry Street. So right now we know where he is, and we also know the time, no electricity. His father was sick, and his mother was dead. And so, though he was just a boy, he had to work to help support his sisters. And then it introduces us to all those sisters. So we now know a little bit about this boy's life. So you could start like that with the characters. All right, I'm going to go to some chapter books now. One Crazy Summer. Let's see how this chapter book starts out. Good thing the plane had seat belts. We'd been strapped in tight before takeoff. Without them, that last jolt would have been enough to throw Vanita into orbit and Fern across the aisle. Still, I anchored myself and my sisters best I could to brace us for whatever came next. Those clouds weren't through with us yet, and dealt another Cassius Clay left and a right jab to the body of our Boeing 727. So immediately we know they're on this airplane, and this is not a comfortable ride. So they're talking about their setting, what's going on right now. Boy, I can really visualize being on that plane. If you've ever been on a plane, I bet you that jostled you around. And let's just do one more. Number the stars. I'll race you to the corner, Ellen. Anne-Marie adjusted the thick leather packet on her back so that her school books balanced evenly. Ready? She looked at her best friend. Ellen made a face. No, she said, laughing. You know I can't beat you. My legs aren't as long. Can't we just walk like civilized people? She was a stocky 10-year-old, unlike lanky Anne-Marie. So again, we're right into it because they're having a conversation. There's some dialogue going on, and yours has to have dialogue. And we're already finding out maybe a little bit about these characters. You know, Ellen is, short. Her legs aren't as long. She's stocky. She's 10. And it says that Anne-Marie is lanky. Lanky means long and skinny. So you can start your story any way you want, but you're going to start it in your writer's notebooks under this section. I want you to try at least 3 introductions. 3. Good luck.